it's not always appropriate. It's not always the right time. You shouldn't be cracking jokes at people's funerals.
Welcome to another episode of Chewing the Fat. I am your host, Big Rob. Thank you so much for tuning in, downloading, following the podcast. I certainly do appreciate that. Thanks to Claire, who bought me a coffee at chewingthefatbr.com. I certainly do appreciate that. And for the folks that are writing reviews at Apple Podcasts and giving ratings, those always help the podcast. And it means so much to me to get those emails that someone has written a review of the podcast. It's just so cool. And speaking of cool, I'm so excited about my guest today. He is calling in from outside of New York City. He is an actor, a writer, and a fellow fan of kindness. Please welcome Robert Peterpaul.
Hello.
Hello, Robert. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for calling me cool in the beginning. That was, wow. I'm not going to get over that one for a while. That's so cool.
That's your rating that I'm giving you. I'm giving you a cool rating.
Okay, well, Rob, I'm going to give you a rating then because I've been listening. And not only do you have an awesome voice and such a beautiful mind, but your podcast is amazing. Oh. So I'm so excited to be here today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Robert is an actor, like I said, a performer. You're up in New York. I found you through your podcast. You're also a podcaster with the Art of Kindness podcast, I think is we both kind of shared a similar start point of about a year ago, kind of in the we didn't realize it was the end times of the pandemic. It felt like, right in the heart of it. So I think we both had this need to say something positive to the world because there was so much negative going around. So I just kind of fell in love with what you're doing with the Art of Kindness podcast on the Broadway Podcast Network. Robert, let's find out a little bit more about you. Are you from that area?
Sure.
Is that where you grew up?
Where I'm living now? Actually, no. So I'm just outside the city in Connecticut, but I grew up in New Jersey and grew up always going into the city, seeing Broadway shows. I've been an actor since I was really young, but I moved to Connecticut.
7, if I'm not mistaken, right? 7.
Oh, look at that, flexing the research. Yes. Well, my parents like to say I came out of the womb singing and being wild and weird. So
Same.
It might be 0.0. Okay, good. I felt like we were kindred in that way. Kindred and kind.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've always been close to the city, which has been really nice because, that's the theater hub of the world in a lot of ways.
Yeah. What was it about that really drew you to theater? Again, 7, it's a young age to start, but what was it about performing that really just burned that fire inside you?
I think storytelling is just something that's so heartfelt and fun for me. I think it's always been my way of connecting with people. I loved a good play date, but I always emphasized the play. Yeah. And I would wrangle my friends into being in short films or produce plays in the backyard. And it always became maybe work for other people, but I was always having a blast. And I think that's what life's all about, right? Having fun. So I've kind of kept following the fun. And I guess 7 was probably when I first started acting professionally, but I didn't even know it. I didn't know it was a quote unquote job just because I was enjoying it so much. So I think it's the sort of thing for me where I just can't not do it.
Yeah.
As
I guess folks would call you a child actor at 7 doing that. Did you follow kind of the path? We always hear such negative things about child actors and that they get, this bit of fame and it just turns them into horrible human beings. I don't think that's happened to you, but everybody goes through stuff in life. Everybody has.
Well, Rob, I gotta tell you, no, I didn't.
Brown liquor at 8. It was.
Let me show you what's off camera over here.
That's right. I was crushed Flintstones vitamins I was eating.
Yeah, it's just Mickey Mouse smoking a cigarette. I didn't get the Disney curse, probably because I didn't land a Disney show.
Oh,
but I did when I was little, like the Beauty and the Beast tour. That's a different story. But I feel like again, it was always something that was fun to me. But for some reason, I think I was embarrassed maybe a little bit, to be honest, growing up. Like it was still that phase where I think now theater kids, it's such a thing. You can find your people online so easily and it's
Yeah.
awesome. But to be honest with you, I think growing up, it was something people made fun of, you know?
Yeah.
They could target you for being that way and certain things were hurtful. And I was bopped around and was trying to be friends with everybody. So I was such a people pleaser that I didn't want anybody to sort of outcast me in that way fully. So while I did theater, I think I was always kind of like not accepting the label. I don't know what it was,
Wow.
but I didn't study. I did study theater in college, but I didn't go to, you know, a quote unquote theater school.
Hmm.
And part of that too, I think, was because I wanted a well-rounded group of people. I always
Hmm.
like to have people outside the business around me.
Yeah.
And so to kind of land the plane and answer your question, I think because I have tried to find that balance, maybe I didn't get fully sucked in a lot of ways, but
Yeah.
it's an interesting question because I feel like for me, and I know you, we're fellow theater nerds over here, just having listened,
Yeah.
but I think for me, I'm always trying to get back to the sense of play I had as a kid. I think it's
Yeah.
like embracing that inner kid and forgetting all this business stuff I've learned along the way that can really freeze you up and you know, bog your mental health in a lot of ways and get in the way of your auditions and performing.
Mm.
So going back to that play, the sense of play I had as a kid is something I strive for every time I take on a project or I audition, which I do have to film an audition right after this.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is a good reminder, you know, but it should be fun at the end of the day, you know,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I feel.
Yeah. It's one of those things. And I agree. You when you get tied into the business side of it, you can be so like, oh, it's like I have to do this and this, and you forget thinking about taxes and write-offs and things like that, and how much you paid for your headshots, and you have to get them every six
Oh,
months, and all this other stuff.
just got new ones.
Yeah, yeah. It's being able to again give of yourself, and I feel like it is a very altruistic outpouring when you truly, because I mean that's why I do it. I like to entertain. I like to give back, not like, oh, look at me, but it's like to be part of this thing that can cause somebody to flow from a range of emotions, from happiness and delight to sadness and introspection, just on how you're delivering those words back. I think it's one of my favorite art forms
Yeah.
that are out there, and there's just nothing aside from like maybe songwriting, and it's we're talking musical theater for a lot of what we both do here. It's still
Mhm.
it's the music, it's the way that you can connect to someone. It passes like language barriers and things like that, and really gets to the heart of people.
Yeah, so much of it is universal. And I think how you put it is really beautiful because for me, going to the theater and being a part of theater is about both seeing and being seen, like feeling seen and then seeing something new.
Yeah.
And if I can affect somebody in any way, even if it's just by being silly in a show and making somebody laugh, then I think I've done my job because we're all serving this story. And stories are supposed to make people feel, and they're what our world is built on.
Yeah.
And I think it's the basic art form, it's at the base of all these different forms of entertainment, even sports in a lot of ways. Like we're always telling a story. Is it the underdogs?
Hmm.
Is it the champions, falling and losing?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, we're attracted to storytelling and it's just about human connection. So
Yeah.
that's been a way to kind of tie in with my podcast, the arts and kindness, because that's what it is. It's just being human.
Yeah. Um, what was your first role? We've talked about you getting your professional role at seven. What was your role?
My first, I think the first professional role at seven was I did. What came first?
I don't know if it was
I
a
oh
chicken
so
or an egg.
I know, was it the chicken or the egg? I was just gonna say. I think I booked this educational tour. It was like a musical tour that was meant to go to different schools, teach kids about actually kindness and not bullying, and there were certain
Oh wow.
archetypes. And then it got picked up, and we got an off Broadway run, which was really fun.
Oh wow.
It's called the People Garden,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, a lot of my castmates I still talk to from time to time and are doing awesome things. And then from there, I got more opportunities to audition. And so I ended up getting Seussical on Broadway, which was really like my big first thing,
Yeah.
and went through the process of that. And I guess that was like around the same time. But that taught me early on about this business because, whew, that show, it lost money and it closed before I ever actually got to go on.
Hmm.
So it was a very kind of a confusing experience for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it was a sort of thing where my first job kind of led into the other, which
Mm.
is what I'm finding is kind of the way it seems to go.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it, I think a lot of it is, yes, it's the talent that you have. But a lot of any type of entertainment and stuff is very much kind of the people and it's not necessarily, hey, you can call somebody and get a job. It's like I hear people here because I'm in Georgia, and people are like, well, Tyler Perry Studios is in Atlanta. Can't you once you get on? It's like that's not how this works. If I knew somebody
Yeah.
who knew somebody who knew somebody, I still may not get
Uh-huh.
a role in a Tyler Perry movie or anything like that. But when you do know that makeup person and they happen to know a casting director and they say, and that one project comes along and says, hey, I know a guy, can we at least get him in the room? I think
Hmm.
that those type of relationships, and like you say, flowing from one to the next, because you're out there, you're doing the work, and people you're doing it in front of people to be seen, and it's not just the people that are paying for the tickets, it's the people you're working with, it's
Yeah.
the castmates, it's the crew, it's the director, it's the music director, or whomever, that it's building those relationships, and I really have found that theater, entertainment, acting, it's such a big community, and
Hmm.
it's like a small world, but it is such a big community.
After all,
Yeah.
it is. It's a small world. Well, don't you find too? It is such a relationship business, and I think so much information is thrown at you early on, not only how to act, but then how to audition, how to make your resume look, how to get headshots and
Hmm.
market yourself in the correct way. There's just so much information, how to audition for TV, how to audition for musicals,
Hmm.
that that bogs your brain and you kind of get so insular that you forget that it is a business based on human connection. And so when you're going in constantly to try and get the job, quote unquote, it it's not always the best recipe. And so I've been trying to, like you were just saying, take a step back, especially more recently, and think it is just making friends. Every time
Hmm.
you have an audition, it's the opportunity to meet somebody new and show them who you are. And people can smell that desperation. So getting rid of that and just trying to connect with people on a human level, I think is super important because you're right. You could know somebody and they can open that door for you, but that doesn't mean the room you're walking into is the automatic, green light to a successful career. It
Exactly.
could just mean that's one audition you're going to get where a casting director might remember you and then a year later call you in for something else. And then a year,
Yes.
it's just stepping stones. So
Yeah.
it's a marathon, not a sprint is, I guess, really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of those things, like you said. And I that was one of the hardest lessons I had to learn early on, because I have a specific body type. I understand what roles I will be cast in. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
understand what roles I'm not going to be the lead, handsome, swashbuckling, whatever. I'm going to be the funny neighbor, the buddy, the shop owner, something like that. And I'm okay with that because I love character work.
Yeah.
That's some of the
But
most
Rob,
fun.
you could be the lead. You could be the lead.
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
it's,
I did do 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. I was William Barfay. So, I mean,
were you Barfay?
I
Okay,
was, yeah. So, I
I
mean,
did that show. I
were
know
you?
you did that show. Actually, I heard you talk about it on the podcast.
Really? Who are you?
So I did it at a really nice theater nearby, regional theater, and it's quite competitive no
Mm.
matter where you are around the city. I was the swing, so I covered all the male
Oh, wow.
tracks, which was one of the craziest experiences of my life, honestly, because there's a lot of very different characters in that show, as you know. So I
Yes.
had to learn Barfay.
Oh, wow. Well, and it's not even just, I can't imagine it. It's not even just learning the characters. It's also so much improv that goes on depending on who comes up on stage to be the guest spellers and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
making sure you're in the right mindset of whatever character it is to improv as that character. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool. When did you do Putnam County Spelling Bee?
Probably about 4 years ago. I think it was 4 years ago. Yeah, 2018 or so.
Wow.
Yeah, I loved
Which
it.
isn't that long ago
Yeah,
because COVID was like a weird blip that we don't really count. So
it is. You have to forget that there were. I mean, there were 2 years in between that we never take count of. So it's like,
yeah,
yeah.
I
But
think we did it at the same time, which is wild.
that is wild. Yeah, I love that show. That was definitely like a bucket list role for me. I absolutely loved that. How did your podcast come about?
Well, I think my podcast was baking in my brain for a very long time,
Mm.
and then or toasting in my brain, I should say, to keep a cleaner metaphor. And then the toast popped during the pandemic
Mm.
because growing up, there's a couple different points to it, and I'm a rambler, so give me the cane at any time. But basically, as a kid, something happened with my family. My brother was sick, and we experienced a lot of acts of kindness through that.
Mm.
And so early on, I got this crash course in kindness through just seeing the nurses he had. Unfortunately, he passed away, and the community rallied around us, and they would bring us meals, and there was just such kindness that I really experienced early on, and I never forgot. And so that certainly influences everything I do. And then when I was thinking about trying to be an actor, immediately are told, "Oh, you need a survival job. You need a survival job," which is good advice. And I always thought to myself, well, it would be really cool to be a waiter. That would be like an awesome rite of passage. And so I tried bartending for like a month, and it was great. It was so much fun, but I used to give people like way too generous pours, and it was late nights. And, I eventually realized, all right, I could just have fun here, so I should go. And I thought, if I'm going to have day jobs, they should be in the entertainment industry. So I'm
Hmm.
meeting people. And so I've always loved writing. And during the pandemic, I guess it was marking the 6th year I was an editor for this entertainment magazine, which is called Hola. And it's the Spanish version of Hello, which is bigger in the UK.
Hmm.
And then Hola was launching in the US. So it was more like Latinx based, but it was fun. And I was just kind of dismayed at how negative the headlines would have to be twisted for people to read them,
Mm.
because every major website has these A/B checkers. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
Mm-mm.
it's it's called like A/B testing.
Okay.
And so when you publish an article, you can put in different options for the headline, and it'll show you which one people are actually clicking. And obviously,
Oh,
people
wow.
are going to click the more salacious ones.
Hmm.
But on the opposite end, I saw that people would also really click the ultra positive ones. So the
Mm.
the total other end of the spectrum, the most popular stories were always, so and so claps back at blah blah blah, or which I didn't like to write those stories, and I never really did. And then the other end would be, Kate Middleton's baby photos, or check out this celebrity's wedding, just like more positive things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew there was an audience for that. And I was trying to figure out a way in my brain to kind of dramatize the positive and make people want to click it. And I just, in the middle of the night, literally woke up and was like, the art of kindness. It just kind of hit me. And then I usually try to keep paper next to my bed because I always get weird ideas, and sometimes they land, sometimes they don't. But this one landed. The next day, I literally Googled how to start a podcast. I have some friends that have podcasts, so I picked their brain, and I kind of just hit the ground running because I wanted to show, and as you know, people in the world, that entertainers and artists at the core are usually the kindest people around.
Mm.
It's just the media and pop culture has created such a runaway train of dramatic news that they want to place these people at the center of. And I'm
Yeah.
like, they're already starring in the movies. They don't have to star in this crap too.
Right.
So, yeah, I wanted to start a podcast that spotlighted artists and showed the amazing things that they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it was born, if that made any sense.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's what they say. The best ideas come in the three B's. Bedrooms, bathrooms, and bar rooms. Because
Yeah, yes,
that's where you're most relaxed. Where you most it's when your mind is open to whatever that those ideas come around. And I'm very much the
that's cool.
same.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I'm very much the same way as far. I don't keep actual paper and pen, but I've got a note in my phone, and I use the voice memo all the time. And sometimes it's weird one line of a song, or an idea for a coffee shop or something like that. And sometimes I do something with them, sometimes I
Yeah.
don't. So, but yeah, you gotta capture those things because they are going to be gone as soon as you close your eyes again.
I know the voice note app is super helpful for that. I'll
Yeah.
do that even if I have an intro idea for the podcast now. I take long walks every day, and I'll just do voice notes as I'm walking. I'm
Hmm.
sure the neighborhood thinks I'm the town weirdo, which is fine. Being weird is fine, but
Yeah.
yeah, the voice note app is super helpful for that reason too.
Yeah. So now you've got a podcast. You've got your episode 0 about, hey, this is what this is going to be. What was the biggest hurdle for you getting going or continuing, or I just curious as a podcaster to
Yeah,
podcaster, you know
yeah.
you know what was your big, like, why is this part so hard?
Well, okay. Well, what was really weird, and maybe you can relate to this, is how accessible and easy it actually is to start a podcast.
Hmm.
It was like overall, it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Now, the hard stuff was, I mean, I think for me, the biggest hurdle has always been listening to the sound of my own voice and editing the episodes, if I'm being honest. That's not fun. That's not a good time for me. But I've gotten used to it and it's been a good exercise. So that was definitely one thing. And then I don't know. I think just with when you really believe in something and just feel it, for me at least, I commit and I just run toward it.
Hmm.
And so I hit the ground running. I was booking guests, and then I kind of knew I should stockpile people. So I was sitting on like 6 or 7 interviews and episodes before I even premiered,
Hmm.
just so maybe I might have went too far, honestly, just so I could have things ready to go. And I think overall it was just such a lovely experience. I don't know that there was a huge hurdle overall besides my dumb voice, Rob.
Which is odd for a person who partially sings for a living to think that their voice is difficult to listen to.
But does anybody like the sound of their own voice? I feel like I tolerate it now.
I mean, I do.
Well,
I
I mean, you have
well,
objectively really great, deep,
that makes me sound
rich
very,
voice.
very shallow. But I mean, I worked in radio for 20 years, so I got used to my voice a
It
long time
shows.
ago. So, um,
Yeah.
so what has been one of the best, like, moments you've had in your podcast?
Well, in 20 years, we need to catch up, first of all, and maybe I'll love my voice by then. But I think the best part for me, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is the listener feedback. I mean,
Yes.
first of all, the fact that anybody listens still blows my mind.
Yeah.
And I get these direct messages sometimes, or tweets, or I've opened the email up now. And just to hear people say, I was having a really hard week, and then your podcast came out and it really made me smile. Or we do kindness tips on my show. I always end episodes by giving out kind of tangible kindness tips. And for people to tell me how they've used them and how it reminded them that they should be grateful in the morning, or text someone they love in the morning, or open up a conversation with their mom. I mean, I've gotten such lovely notes from people that it just fuels me. And I think, again, that for me is the arts at its finest,
Yeah.
is touching people. And with technology now, we can actually see the full circle effect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's truly been the best part, I think. And just talking, we love
Yeah.
to talk, right? Right, Rob? So getting
Absolutely.
to talk is a
Well,
good
yeah, because
time.
then it not only becomes a conversation with your guest, it becomes a conversation with the people that are listening too. It's
Hmm.
that, it's that breath in and that breath out. It's like you take some in, you give some out. Somebody else takes it in and
Yeah.
gives it back out to you. And it's life giving. It is. I mean, when I get those messages and, like, hey, this came at the right time. I post something on Instagram or something, and like, this came at the right time. Thank you so much for saying this. I needed to
Hmm.
hear this, or that episode was amazing. I went through something very similar or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do with that. You know.
Yeah. It fills you up. There's really no better feeling. And it's kind of akin to a really well working bank, which I feel like, bear with me, I don't know where this is going, but I feel like relationships a lot of the time should be like banks. You should deposit as much as you withdraw, and you
Mm-hmm.
should withdraw as much as you deposit.
Mm-hmm.
And so to get the I guess, deposit back in from listeners and people that are feeling good hearing my show, and
Yeah.
the conversations that we have is just truly the best feeling, because it's like an amplified relationship, like you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wish you many, many, many more years of episodes and many, many more years of deposits. What
Thank you. And you too.
what have you got going on outside of the podcast right now? You say you've got an audition coming up. I know you usually can't talk about that stuff, but is there a show that you're currently in or a project that you're currently working on?
Yeah. So the biggest project I'm working on right now is our wedding. I'm getting married in November, but
Congratulations.
thank you. So that's a lot of little things to tie up. But before that, we are squeezing in a show, and my fiance and I are both in it. And it's with a comic legend who retired from stand-up. Her name is Lisa Lampanelli. And we are putting together a show all about her quote unquote failures. It's called Big Fat Failure. And we will be doing two kind of tryout performances on October 15th here in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Yeah, 15th, I think. Or look that up, Big Fat Failure at Trevi Lounge. And again, it's all about this woman who's, I mean, an iconic comedian and then left stand up, but she's just, when you look up her career, I mean, she's a friend now, and she's such a kind person as well, which is an added bonus and frankly annoying. No, she's amazing. But to have her talk about failure openly is just mind blowing, because on paper she's such a success. I mean, she's performed on the Tonight Show. She was nominated for a Grammy. I mean, people wouldn't realize that someone like that has such failure in their life too. So I think it's going to be relatable. It's going to be fun. And yeah, come see us if you're in the Connecticut area. And then hopefully, if it goes well, we might bring it around town, see what happens.
Yeah.
But that's on the docket right now, in addition to auditioning and knocking on anyone and everyone's door to let me entertain them.
Let you entertain them.
Entertain. Yes, I like that version of the song. We should spoof that.
Yes.
Let me entertain them.
What's bringing you joy right now?
You, Rob.
Oh,
Well, this conversation certainly, but in general, I'm a sucker for the fall.
me too. Me too.
So yeah, seeing pumpkin is back, plastered onto the side of Dunkin' Donuts, surely brings me joy. Hocus Pocus 2 coming out is giving me several lives inside of my one life. And then every single day, you know, I'm so fortunate to be living with and then getting married to my fiance. So she always brings me joy, which is also mind blowing that someone has not gotten sick of me yet, Rob. But again, we'll check back in 20 years.
All right, Robert, this is the second segment of the show where we talk a little bit more about mental health, dive a little bit deeper. I am a firm believer that everybody goes through down days, whether it's the day you just have to stand in the shower and let the hot water hit you just a little bit longer, or the day you feel like you just can't get out of bed, whether it's diagnosed anxiety or depression, or like I said, you just feel, bleh, you know. I think everybody goes through that, and being able to identify that and let people know that you're not alone. Everybody has those days. It helps us all to get through them. So for you, how do you keep the darkness at bay?
I love that question, and I have thought about it a lot since I started listening to your show and knew I was coming on here. So thank you for asking me. It's an honor. I think I have two main answers. The first thing that came to my mind when I thought about this question was simply laughter. So for me, you know, I had some dark things happen growing up and some traumatic things, as we all do and go through in life. And I'm the kind of person where if people in my family are fighting, I'm going to put a pillow into my pants, put a blanket on, make weird faces and run around and try and like make people laugh. You know, I think there's nothing that laughter can't cure. So to me, laughter is light, and it kind of turns the light on in the darkness. Now, you know, it's not always appropriate. It's not always the right time. You shouldn't be cracking jokes at people's funerals. I've learned the hard way. No, I've never done that. That's dark. But I think the second thing that comes in for me that is across the board, always a lamp or a light is like we've just been talking about, sharing,
Mm,
sharing with others and connecting with others.
hmm.
Because I think when you hold these things in your head and trap them in your mind, they grow and they get bigger and bigger and they fester and they take over your whole brain.
Hmm.
But by actually speaking it out, you're kind of letting it out bit by bit. And the more
Yeah.
you talk about it and the more you share, the more you'll A, not only find people that have been through similar things and maybe have some advice or just a listening ear,
Hmm.
but B, the less power it'll have again, because the more you talk about it, the I think less build up there is. So I do think kind of laughing and then sharing, I guess, simply connecting with others, I would say is the thing for me that keeps the darkness at bay.
Yeah, I agree with talking. It's like a pressure valve release for sure. It's literally the
Yeah.
more you can get it out, it doesn't stay in. It doesn't have that opportunity to fester. And again, you never know whatever you're saying, whether it's on this, on a podcast or something like that, or with one of your guests that somebody else can identify with, that they find a little relief in that as well.
Hmm.
It's making that anonymous connection with someone,
Yeah.
that,
You never know what's going to affect somebody. Thinking of podcasting on my show, I've been so lucky to have people on again that I look up to and that on paper maybe have quote unquote the perfect life and are just award winning performers, whatever it is. And they're people that are still struggling with the same things that we all struggle with. So just hearing them say that, like you're saying right now, just hearing somebody say that reminds you that you're not alone. Like Stephen Sondheim wrote, no one is alone. And
yeah,
it's
truly.
three very powerful words. Truly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As an actor, a lot of times we draw on life experiences to help, you know, guide where characters may go, and we draw on those emotions and things like that to help inform our performances. Um, I think one thing that is sometimes difficult, depending on where you're pulling that stuff from, is very much like what we're talking about, is it gets sticky, it gets tarry, and you start to dwell in it too much. Instead of
Mm.
using it for inspiration, you start to kind of get sucked into that.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've experienced something like that, with any of your
Yeah.
work before, or anything like that, but uh, I think that's the difficult road, to be able to know how to use, but not be used by it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think it's kind of taking different classes, studying different methods, and cobbling together your own craft is what I found to be my journey, at least. I don't think it's a one size fits all thing. And I do find that the traumas and really emotionally draining things that you've gone through in your life that you haven't worked on and
Hmm.
really talked about and dealt with are the things that you stick to and sink into when you try to use them in your work.
Yeah,
Because if you've kind of worked through something, you can recall it and conjure it up in maybe a healthier way and then drop it because you've worked through it already.
yeah,
But if you haven't worked through something, you can get stuck in it. And I think that's just not sustainable. I mean, maybe for an audition, you could use it and then you cry or whatever it is in the scene and you book the job. But when you're on set, you sometimes have to do, three different angles, a bunch of different takes. You're not gonna be able to sustain that.
right.
And so I think I've tried to learn how to manage that in different ways. But I don't know. I think for me lately, I've just been finding doing all the preparation, seeing what from myself I can bring to a character, but then what from myself I should remove
Mm,
too,
mm,
and then just letting it go and kind of living in the circumstances. So when I'm in a scene, I'm not thinking, oh, this is like this thing that happened to me, or but it is hard sometimes. I mean, I just auditioned for a film, which I guess I probably shouldn't name it, but it deals with children with cancer, and that's my brother had cancer and passed away from it, and it was at
mm.
the hospital he was treated at is where the film takes place,
Wow.
and there were so many similarities that it was weird,
Yeah.
and it to me it could have been really sad, but it felt like kismet, like it felt meant to be. I felt like my brother kind of was leading me to this audition, and I don't know whether I'll get it or not. Likely not, but at least I will have made connection with these people and shown what I can do. So I think there's a nice side to that too. The full circleness, because we're in a rare field where we can actually kind of use the arts to work through things if we
Yeah.
haven't already. And again, that doesn't work for everybody, but it's kind of just the pursuit sometimes and being aware of these things as they come up and kind of labeling them and putting them away. I'm doing a weird hand motion right now, which I realize nobody can see.
I can see it. I appreciate your weird hand motions because I'm also doing weird hand motions.
Thank you. I like a weird hand motion.
So for you, when you're, especially that particular situation where you're auditioning for a role that seems so close to what you've been through already, I think it's beautiful that you say that you can feel power in, your brother guiding you to that and maybe saying, hey, you got this, I'm still here for you, I think that's beautiful. Yeah. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you. And there was weird signs too, because my brother passed away. He was diagnosed with cancer at age 9, passed away at 11 on 9/11 at 9:11 p.m., which is just a really weird number situation. Yeah. And then the sides I got for this audition, I think, were pages 9 through 11. Oh, so there were just some really weird coincidences going on. And I don't know if it was just maybe a reminder to reach out to my family, let them know about the audition, and that was part of a different plan. Yeah. Or because the part was meant for me. I don't know, but I think it's also kind of letting that go and not needing an answer.
Yeah. I think it seems like you got shown some pieces of him, some pieces of light in something that may have been dark otherwise.
Yeah, at the center of, I like that you always talk about keeping the darkness at bay, because I think at the center of darkness for humanity is always light. The darkest thing that we can go through is losing someone we love in a lot of ways. And at the core of that is the light, is the person we love. It's just dimming. Yeah. And so it's, I guess, maybe focusing on the light.
All right, Robert, this is our third segment of the show. It's time now for the Fast Five. The Fast Five. It's time now for the Fast Five. Fast Five. Sorry, we don't have a theme song yet. I'm still working on that. I got my music guy and stuff.
I love that. I'm going to remix that. Put that on my Apple Music.
I feel like maybe I should have done a Show Tunes version of that. 5 little bitty questions for you to answer.
Yes. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Well, you know what I did something really silly on my podcast, which is that I harmonized with myself, and I made up like a 3 or 4 part harmony for my game, which is called the compliment game. So I challenge you. You could try it out. You could make a little harmony with yourself, cue it up.
I will have to try that. I will have to try that.
Let me know how it goes.
Well, maybe I'll get you to come in and do like some tenor part or something like that.
I'm down. I'm here.
The Fast Five is powered by Poddex. It's an app created by my friend Travis Brown. It's created for podcasters. They're great interview questions. He's got like 7 or 8 different physical decks with different subjects on them in there. But he's also got an app in your Android or your Apple App Store. They're great icebreakers as well. So maybe you tuck one card in your back pocket, and next time you go to an audition, you're in the room, you need to break the ice, and just pull that out and ask a weird question of whoever's behind the table.
When was the last time you were at the dentist? No.
Exactly.
I love that. That sounds like a super cool. I'm literally going to download this when we're done.
Well, as a matter of fact, if you go to chewinthefatbr.com/poddex, you can use the promo code CHEW and get 10% off your physical decks. But I am going to use the app. Again, it's going to be random questions. Just the first thing that comes off the top of your head. No wrong answers. Okay, you ready?
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to try.
Question number 1. What are you superstitious about?
I think walking on the cracks because I don't want to break my mama's back.
That's a good one. I would. And that is probably the one superstition that I have taken through all of my life is don't,
Yes.
because she's done so much for
Oh,
me. I don't want to break her
I
back.
know. She literally used to carry you on her back.
Right.
But and then also in a similar vein, not walking on the same side of the pole as people I love that I'm with. Does that make sense?
So you want to
I
keep
heard
them
it.
further away from the street.
Yes, but also I heard even if there's multiple doors in a building,
Hmm.
if you don't all go through the same door or all go on the same side, it's bad luck, I've heard.
Oh,
Sorry to add a new superstition to your life, but
no.
that's one I try to follow as well.
Okay. Everybody goes through the same door. Okay. All right.
Yeah, or in the same side of the pole when you're walking, whatever it
Right,
is.
right, 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 right. Don't split up. Everybody's going the same way.
Yes.
I got it. I got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, question number 2. Where do you go when you need to blow off some steam?
I take a at least an hour walk every day. So I go on a walk.
Okay. You have
That's
like
my happy place.
you have a certain path that you go, or is it always past like a lake or something? Or
I did, but we just moved. So I'm finding a new path.
intentionally finding a new path, or are you just like, I'm lost again? Where's the house?
Well, I'm sure I look lost because people probably look out their window and they're like, look, there he goes, the weirdo. Like I'm like usually singing to myself, talking on the phone, rehearsing lines. I mean, it's a sight to see, but I'm making it work. But I feel happy, which is important. I feel happy when I'm walking.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Question number 3. What do you love to do for others?
I love to give people things. So every time I go to somebody's house, my fiance makes fun of me because I have to find something in the cabinet we can give them. I'm like, what about this half-eaten chocolate bar? Like I feel like I have to come bearing gifts.
Okay. Okay.
But I also really love just being around others and listening. I feel like it's really fun to listen and then find something weird that somebody says and then ask them about that.
Oh, very good. That's kind of like, if you're a gift giver throughout the year, listening to what people say they like or don't like, and then like really surprising them at the holidays or a birthday or something. I love doing that. Like,
Oh, me too.
why did you get this? Blah blah blah. It's like, well, you said back in January that you liked that, so I remember.
January of 1995.
That's right. At 4:38 in the afternoon. It
was a cloudy day.
It's
yeah, right. Actually, you reminded me too, and I made this a kindness tip on our show, which is that you should also, when somebody tells you something, a way to kind of practice thoughtfulness is to immediately write it down. So if someone says, I have a big job interview in a couple of weeks, ask them what day, and then just put a reminder in your phone and then text them. It's so easy.
Yeah.
But that really goes a long way for people too. I like doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of when someone crosses my mind, texting them immediately. Like, I don't know why the universe put you in my mind, but hey, hope you're doing well. I was just thinking of you. They may respond, they may not, but it's like, I just want you to know you're being thought of, that for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Just reaching
I love
out.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right.
It's so important.
Number 4. If you could learn any language fluently, what would it be?
Ooh. I should probably say Italian because my whole dad's side of the family is Italian, and I know a little bit, but probably not enough. I think that or French. I think French is beautiful.
Do you do? And you said you worked for the Hola magazine, so I'm assuming you speak Spanish very well.
Un poco. The articles I would write were in English. I speak a little bit of Spanish. I have a little bit of Spanish blood, but I was really good. I took about like 4 or 5 years of it throughout school. Could be better, but I can do a lot of accents.
Oh, well, that's
so
good.
I'm halfway there.
That's your skills section of your resume.
Yes, I got my resume right here. No.
All right. And question number 5. Where is one place you hope to visit before you die?
This is so fun. I really want to go to the Amalfi Coast. I have been to Italy, but I have not been to the Amalfi Coast. So I think that's definitely one of them. And then let's just say for fun, Dolly Parton's living room. I would love for her to bring
Mm.
me coffee and just have a little chat with her.
Yes, yes, I love some Dolly. Of course, we're not far from Dollywood here. She's just right up in Tennessee, just right up above Georgia. So
Have you been?
I went to Dollywood when I was much younger with my mom and my grandparents and stuff like that, and I'm sure we saw her there. I think we went over to Nashville and saw her at the Grand Ole Opry and all like that. But yeah, she is
Wow.
just you talk about somebody that is filled with nothing but kindness. She is the Rosetta Stone of kindness.
Yes. Oh, that's a great way to put it. She should put that on her website. She truly is.
Well,
She's
that's
a beacon of light.
yeah. I would love to have the opportunity to again talk with Dolly as well. That would be amazing. That would be
Same. She's like my number one get. She's why I started a podcast, if I'm being real.
yeah.
Just all roads trying to go to Dolly Parton.
Trying to get her on the podcast. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I hope you will have her on as a guest one day. But that is our Fast Five, and that's the show, Robert. Thank you so much for being here.
No, I don't want to go. Ask me more.
No.
That game was so much fun. I loved being here, and I feel very grateful that you asked me. So thank you for having me. And thank you also, and then I'll stop talking, I promise,
No.
for choosing to make a podcast that focuses on mental health and promotes such just goodness in the world. I think we need more people like you and more podcasters like you. It's really important. So don't stop.
No,
I want another 50.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. If people want to keep up with you, what's the best way for them to follow you? And you're on socials and things like that?
Yes, I'm pretty Googleable. I'm a Google
Googleable.
whore. No, I don't. Yeah, I'm Googleable. You can find me on Instagram at Rob Peterpaul. I'm on TikTok doing a lot of very silly things at Robert Peterpaul. And then I think Twitter at Rob Peterpaul. And then the Art of Kindness is at Art of Kindness Pod on Instagram. And you could also find the Art of Kindness podcast on every podcast platform and subscribe and then give, Chewing the Fat and the Art of Kindness some 5-star reviews if you're feeling generous. I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll make sure I put all of those links in the show notes. Again, thank you so much for being here. This truly was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening. I hope you have a great day wherever you are.
Awesome. And if you would like to support this podcast, I'd appreciate it if you buy me a coffee at chewingthefatbr.com. But I look forward to the next time we have to sit a spell and chew the fat.